So Black Widow dropped in theaters and on Disney Plus. I already did a spoiler-free review and a spoiler review, so today I'm going to rank all 24 films in the MCU. Here we go. Hello everybody, my name is Zach from Movie Chat, and this is going to be a really long video, so I'm going to have to cut to the chase because, I gotta cut to the chase, but before I do that, subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, comment down below, what is your ranking of all 24 MCU films? Just a little note, my list is changing every time I watch a new MCU film. Every single ranking I do, I can just pinpoint accuracy. This list is not accurate. This was something I was, just feeling now, but, imagine if I go ahead and watch Black Panther. It might change on this list, and the whole list would just shift. So just know that if, one of your favorites is lower, I just haven't seen it in a long time, or the first time I saw it, I didn't necessarily like it. So, just know that. But anyways, do all those things I just said, and with that said, let's get started with number 24 is Iron Man 2. This is the only film that will never change on this list, because this film is boring, it has way too many plot lines, overall it just sucks. This movie is awful. I didn't enjoy watching a single part of this movie. In fact, I pirated on YouTube, and then I wanted to watch it again before I did because the sound wasn't that good or anything, and I did, and I still equally hated it. It's so boring. It doesn't have a single great action sequence. There's way too many plot lines. It doesn't have any redeeming factors out of it. I was really excited to watch this film because Iron Man from 2008 was amazing, and this film is just bad. It's just a bad movie, and that's why it's at the bottom of my list, and it will never move from the bottom of my list because this movie is terrible. I never use this phrase, but it's trash. Number 23, The Incredible Hulk. Now, this is probably one of the films on this list that it's probably because I've seen it less times. I probably need to check this out again, but I remember the last time I saw it, it just seemed kind of boring. The Hulk, and it just all looks not like an MCU film. MCU film has to look like big budgeted to me, and it's just looking like it's kind of, a bit drab and dark, and it doesn't even have, the lead actor in this film didn't even return. Edward Norton didn't even return, which means, this film just feels so put off from the MCU that it's hard for me to enjoy it because it's just not like an MCU. It's just not like an MCU film to me. It does not feel like an MCU film. And so I enjoyed things from this film, but it just doesn't feel like an MCU movie to me. 22, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, I hated this movie when I first watched it, but then rewatching it, it turned out to be an alright movie. But overall, it's still kind of, mediocre. And, the plot just really doesn't intrigue me. It's just, the villain. Until the end, he's just kind of like a pointless villain. The big positive here was a comedy. There's so many great jokes that I laughed at. And that's what makes me return to watching this film. But it doesn't really have any redeeming aspects on it. I was kind of bored through the whole movie. The first time I watched it, I was like, and this is just a nitpick with me, there's way too many action sequences, but I was just kind of bored. It doesn't really have anything special. Coming off the first Guardians film, this film's just like a disappointment with some really great jokes. Coming in 21st place is Captain America, the First Avenger. This might be like The Incredible Hulk, where I've seen this one, two less times. I've only seen it twice. And I just remember it's kind of like a, mediocre kind of story that's been told way too many times. Kind of like Man of Steel for me, where it's just like a classic story. It's enjoyable, but it just kind of, again, feels kind of set off from the MCU. Maybe it's because I haven't seen it, but I've just never really wanted to rewatch this film because it's just a story where I'm like, alright, I know the story by heart. There's nothing special with this film, so I can't really love this film. Now, obviously, I don't really think that this film would deserve to go this low. It's just one of those films I haven't seen, and like I said, the list is ever-changing. If I ever feel in the mood to watch this film again, it will probably be higher, because I enjoy this story, but it's just Low because it's a story I've heard way too many times. Next up, Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Now, this is a film that I think will keep me coming back to it repeatedly because of the action sequences. If there wasn't action in this film, I just wouldn't like it. Again, like a problem in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It just has too many action sequences. I don't know. That's just a problem with me. First time I watched it, I was like, ever really bored because of like the constant action sequences. That's one of my problems with Black Widow. I like it in the MCU and a lot of times where people are just walking around talking, not when like every scene's a constant action scene. And so that's probably my biggest problem with this film. But this is a film that will keep me going back, especially if I'm in the mood for like a film with big, extravagant action, like I am if I'm just like really bored. So this is one of the films that will probably just keep me coming back to it. But my first viewing, I didn't necessarily enjoy it. 19th place is Thor. Thor is a very, it's, again, out of place of the MCU. And these Phase 1 films, they're still trying to decide what the MCU is. There's a lot of great out-of-water comedy here. There's a lot of great stuff. Hawkeye and, like, the scene where he's trying to get his hammer, that's all great. But overall, like, one of my big problems with the film is, like, the coloring. Like, I can't even watch this on disc on anything that's not a Blu-ray player because it's just way too dark. And, like, it feels, just like every Phase 1 film, it feels like little low budget before people started getting into the MCU. So, Thor was, like, a film that I enjoyed a lot. It's just not necessarily one of those films that I will keep being like, yay, I can't wait to watch this again. And then 18th place, Thor: The Dark World. And I know this is going to shock a lot of people because almost every ranking I've seen, people put this in last place. But to me, it's just more like a mediocre film. It feels more like a MCU film than the original Thor, than a lot of these did. And that's what I think makes me enjoy it. Last viewing, I did notice that the villain kind of sucks. But there's a lot of great action scenes in this film. A lot of great stuff. The death of his mother is great. Loki, having died the first time, is great. But it's just feels more mediocre. Some good action sequences, good a lot of stuff. But it feels like not really anything like I'm like, again, dying to go back. The first two Thor films feel extremely mediocre. But I did, frankly, enjoy this one a lot more than I enjoyed the original Thor. And then we're going to 17, and this might surprise you, but this is Black Widow. The newest film in the MCU is all the way down at number 17. Again, this is one of the only MCU films that I haven't checked out more than once, but overall, I did enjoy a lot of things of this film, especially when we get to the halfway point. But the first act, again, just after like Phase 3 and the TV shows, it doesn't feel like it has a budget. It feels like it's low budget. I was actually at my friend Brandon's house yesterday, and I told him this problem. It's like, not every movie has to have a $3,000 budget. And I go, an MCU movie does. And this just didn't feel like it for me. Plus, the villain wasn't very good. There's a surprisingly terrible twist involving the main villain, Taskmaster. I'm not going to spoil Black Widow because it's fairly new, but if you've seen the movie, go see my spoiler review. You know what I'm talking about. But this was just a film with a lot of problems. Like, Black Widow just didn't really cut it for me. But as we get to the halfway point, we go on, and the action sequences just get better and better. The film just gets better and better, and it really fixes it for me and brings my score all the way up from very disappointing to a B. I will watch it again this Sunday, and I will make a Letterboxd review for further thoughts. But, like, that is where Black Widow is standing right now, is number 17. Unfortunately, it is very low. But I did enjoy a lot of things out of this film. There's just a lot of things that really did not work in this film. And then we're going to 16, Ant-Man 2, Ant-Man and the Wasp. This film is more like you're coming off of Infinity War, and it's like, yeah, just a nice, fun film. It does feel like an MCU film. It feels like a lot of things. It just doesn't have the weight of the whole world. It's a nice, fun film. Has some cool action sequences. It's this low because last time I watched it, I was like, alright, this is like, it gets kind of old as it goes on. But overall, I do think Ant-Man and the Wasp is just a fun movie, really great action sequences. It's something different in the MCU. That's something that the Ant-Man franchise is bringing to me. It's just certainly not as great as Ant-Man, the original. And then we're going 15, The Avengers, Age of Ultron. This was a film that I really, really liked when I first saw it. Really liked as the last times I've seen it. But then the last time I've seen it, that's when things get complicated for me here. I really, really wanted to love it this last time. And what I got, it kind of feels like a little jumbled mess. Just a tiny bit. Now, this was just the last time but after this last time, I just never felt in the mood to rewatch it. It feels long. There's some cool action sequences here and there, but just feels kind of like a jumbled mess to kind of like introduce Vision and all that. And certainly, they could have done a real big, awesome thing, just like the comic books did with Age of Ultron. Avengers Age of Ultron. I do enjoy the film. There's some great action sequences. The Avengers together is very nice. It's just kind of trying to mimic off the fame of the original film. And a lot of times, for me, it doesn't really work. It just feels jumbled in the writing. Personally, not so great. Then we're going to 14. Civil War. Captain America Civil War. Instead of The Winter Soldier, this is more like my go-to if I want an action film. This film just has a lot of great stuff in it. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. There's so much great stuff. A lot of action sequences were great. The whole story here is great. The ending is great. First time I saw this, I didn't like it first couple times, but then I realized that this could be my go-to MCU film. Because besides Infinity War, this is one of the biggest, most epic films in the whole MCU. It's got a nice story. One of my biggest problems with it here is because it's just trying to justify Bucky. And until Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I just didn't really feel like Bucky was that great of a character. So I didn't enjoy this film the first time I could watch it, but this is my go-to MCU film when I'm just in the mood for big action. Besides Infinity War. And then we're going 13, Doctor Strange. A film with very, very nice story, very nice action, very nice everything. I don't even know why I put it this low. I think at number 14, this is when I'm going I'm loving all these films. Because I do love Doctor Strange. There's a lot of nice visual effects, a lot of nice action sequences. The villain's kind of pathetic, but then we get to see that awesome scene with Dormammu, and that's great as well. I did see this in theaters, and I was a little bit confused, but upon rewatching, I really enjoy this film. I really enjoy this story. I've seen it a lot, and every time I've seen it, I have enjoyed it. Benedict Cumberbatch, perfect pick for Doctor Strange, and as the franchise of the MCU goes on, Doctor Strange is one of the best characters, and this is just a nice journey, and I really did enjoy Doctor Strange. 12, Spider-Man Far From Home. Now I'm thinking that Far From Home is probably worse than Doctor Strange. This was a film that I didn't much mind when I first checked it out. But then, as I'm going along, watching the film over and over again, same thing with Black Widow, that I feel I really enjoy this film. This is another one of my go-to MCU films where I'm just yeah, this is such an enjoyable film. Got a cool twist with Mysterio, even though I got spoiled the twist, so I already knew and everything. But this is just nice, fun film. And it's just one of my go-to. I'm just going if I want to have a blast. First time I watched it, I just felt it was a little bit jumbled. But then when I'm watching it again, I'm all yeah, this is a really awesome film. Really great special effects. Mysterio's a really good villain. And the end credit scenes were the best of the MCU. Hands down. And then we're going 11, Iron Man 3. Love Iron Man 3. Love the Mandarin twist. Don't judge me. The Mandarin twist, one of the best twists in the MCU. Not gonna lie, I found that to be really comedic, but this is kind of just a spy film with Tony Stark. There's not as much Iron Man action, but there's a lot of great stuff in here. The end battle's one of the best. Story is really nice, seeing Tony Stark go from crazy to right again. I understand a lot of the negatives that people have with this film. Shane Black's trying to go creative, but I like creative, and this is probably one of the most creative MCU films. And I personally really enjoy Iron Man 3. There's a lot of great stuff in Iron Man 3, and I really wanted to put this higher up on my list, but then I'd feel yeah, okay, fine, I have to put it here. But personally, I think in my opinion, this would probably go like in the top 5 most creative and fun MCU. But the rest, overall, are better films. Bringing us into our top 10 is Captain Marvel. Very surprising choice. That's what you guys are thinking. I guarantee it. But I hated this movie when I got out of the theater. I thought it sucked. Just some nice little fill in the gaps. But then I've rewatched this film multiple times, and every time I love it. This film has a lot of nice things in here to where I can just really enjoy what's happening. I really love the filler ends here. I really love how the Avengers got their name, and I don't personally mind how Nick Fury lost his eye. There's just a lot of great things here. Brie Larson's pretty good in the film. This is just like, for Captain Marvel, it's just a really nice film. And again, that's why I think that Black Widow will be one of my favorites again, because this film just, I hated it the first time I watched it, but then I'm loving it now, and I love watching it. I love the twists. I love the turns. This is one of the most creative MCU films by far. Number 9, The Avengers. And I was actually going to put this at number 16. But then I was like, this is so nostalgic for me. This is one of the most nostalgic-inducing films that I've ever seen. There is so much nostalgia coming in this film. Everyone does great. The action sequences are great. It's a very simple story, but it's great. The Avengers is a film that last time I watched it, I just got a lot of nostalgia, and I think that's what I am going to know this film for through all time, is just the massive amount of nostalgia. And then we're going to number 8, which is Ant-Man, the most creative MCU film by far. I did mention this in my Black Widow spoiler review. My big problem with this film is the fact that they try to make this big over-the-top, fate of the world stuff. But it's just a nice personal story to Ant-Man. There's some nice action sequences. They managed to put a heist film in the MCU. And to me, all that stuff was just great. There's a lot of great stuff in the film. Paul Rudd's the perfect choice. The cast here is great. This is, again, one of those films I could turn on every day, even, and just still love it every time. Ant-Man is just such a nice and enjoyable action movie set in the MCU with, they managed to bring a heist film to the MCU, and I highly respect this film. That's why it's at number 8. I really love this film. Then number 7, Black Panther. And, okay, so this film kind of does what Black Widow and Ant-Man do, where they're all like, alright, making this film all, big over the top. But this film, I don't really mind. It's like a personal story to T'Challa. Rest in peace, Chadwick. Wakanda forever. I mean, I absolutely love this film. This is another one of my go-tos. So much great action sequences. So much great story. Killmonger is a magnificent villain. I actually bought this a couple days before it actually came out on Blu-ray. On Vudu, we watched it on Mother's Day. And I absolutely love this film. And I've rewatched it several times. And loved it each time. There's so much great stuff in Black Panther. So much great emotion. So many great twists. This film is just a really nice addition to the MCU. And again, made it into my top 10 because I loved it that much. 6 is Iron Man. And Iron Man, probably the most classic of the MCU films. I've seen it countless times. And loved it every single time. It's just a nice story. Very nice kickoff to the MCU. Everyone's like, I hate Obadiah Stane. He's a nice villain. There's a lot of great twists in the film. It's just like this classic MCU film that I've seen this story several times. But unlike Captain America the First Avenger, I can watch this film countless times and still personally love it. Because I do personally love this film. It's very nice. The graphics are great. And it feels like an MCU film, unlike the other Phase 1 films, besides Avengers. This feels like an MCU film. It feels like it's starting something new. And Iron Man is just a very nice addition into the MCU. And then we're going number 5, Avengers Endgame. I love Endgame. The big problem here, though, is it's 3 hours, so I was never able to rewatch it. The 2 times I've watched this film, the first time and then my rewatching, I've loved it, but I'm never in the mood to rewatch this film because of the length. I never really have time to sit down and watch a 3-hour film multiple times. So I can't just be like, I love this film. I used to say this was my favorite movie of all time. Maybe it still is, but I have to put it at number 5 because I can't really, like, rewatch it. But the end battle here is amazing. So many amazing things. Time travel here is a very nice concept to put into the film. I absolutely hated the trailer for this film. And then I'm sitting down like, oh my gosh! Avengers Endgame is amazing. Like, so much great stuff. Again, but there's the length here, and I can't necessarily go, like, I rewatched this film so many times that I love it. It's just way too long to keep rewatching. So I have to put it into my top 5, but I can't, like, put it number 1 like I had it before. And then we're going to number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy. I haven't seen this film in a long time, but this is probably the most nostalgia-inducing. This was my favorite film ever until Homecoming came along, and you will see where Homecoming is. But I've seen the Homecoming a lot, and I've also seen Guardians of the Galaxy a lot. In fact, I had this poster right here hanging up on my wall, and then it fell. There's a Guardians of the Galaxy poster, and every time I look at this, I feel so much nostalgia. I will totally have to watch this film again, because this is a film that I desperately need for a rewatch. There's so much great stuff in here, so much stuff that I have enjoyed watching this film. So much nostalgia. It's just a nice, fun blast. The whole cast here is great. I've seen it way too many times. I love Guardians of the Galaxy. And then we're going to number 3, Spider-Man Homecoming. This film is great. I personally love this film. I've seen it way too many times. There's so great action sequences. A twist with the Vulture and being his girlfriend's dad. That was great. Like, when that happened, my father goes, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. And neither was I. I was, like, very shocked. This is a well-written film. Nice action sequences. I don't understand how anyone can not love this film, because this film is great. Spider-Man Homecoming, hands down, one of the best MCU films, one of the best films of all time. MCU's crafted a great Spider-Man franchise, and Homecoming is amazing. I personally love Homecoming. Then we're going number 2 is Thor Ragnarok, a very funny film. The whole cast here is great. Jeff Goldblum, a nice addition. Loki's back, and his interaction with Thor is great as ever. So much great action sequences here. This film, personally, I don't really think it belongs at number 2. This was an accident putting it at number 2. But I do think this belongs in my top 5. Because I did love Ragnarok. I loved Ragnarok every time I watch it. It doesn't have the emotional weight of anything. It doesn't really... But it's just a stupid, fun film that I really enjoy every time I watch it. It's one of my go-to MCU films. So much amazing action. Thor Ragnarok is just an amazing film. And then we're going number 1 is Avengers Infinity War. Okay, gonna be honest. In my birthday video, my birthday haul and top 10 most unpopular opinions, one of my most unpopular opinions was that I did not like this film. And this is the most rewatchable film of all time. The character interactions are the best. The action is amazing. Thanos is a stunning villain. I don't know how I can't love this the first time. Probably because there was way too many action sequences that I thought. But this film is one of the best films of all time. It has so much emotion, so much great stuff. This set up the way for Endgame, one of the best sequels of all time. Infinity War is just like a very, very nice addition into the MCU. I loved Infinity War. I loved a lot of things about it. But anyways, that was my ranking of the MCU. I want you guys to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, comment down below. What was your ranking of the MCU? Gonna try to double upload today. Not necessarily sure if I can, but I saw Loki episode 5 and 6. So, you're going to have to stay tuned for that review. Hopefully gonna do it today. Space Jam 2 comes out tomorrow. Stay tuned for a review. I'm gonna try to watch a movie. I might watch the Fear Street franchise. I think I'm gonna start watching the Fear Street franchise today. But I have that. I have a lot of other videos coming to your way. Next week is going to be a break week because I'm going on a mission trip. But just know that we got Space Jam 2 coming review. other reviews for so many films. Loki, and then I'm going to rank Phase 4 probably when I get back from my trip, when I see Black Widow again. But anyways, this has been a Zachary production. Subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, comment down below. What was your ranking of all 24 MCU films? If you're going to spoil Black Widow, make sure to put spoiler. And as always, make sure to subscribe to join the Nerd Army. Peace.